So if you're watching this video, you probably already saw these two very important videos. First, the 3 key steps for beginners, and second, the ultimate guide for getting started. And you're quickly realizing that you need money in Torn in order to complete some of these tasks outlined in those two videos. And on top of that, you have people like me or others in game telling you need expensive boosters. Candies like this that cost over $60,000. Xanax, which cost over $800,000. And erotic DVDs, which can approach $5 million in cost. On top of that, at level 15, you're going to need a private island rental, which is going to cost you $800,000 a day, in addition to a large suitcase, which is going to cost you $10 million. All of these items are expensive and can add up in cost, but in this video, I'm going to show you how to start making money in Torn so that you can grow and thrive. Before we get started with specific ideas you can use to make money in Torn, I want to talk about some basic financial concepts that apply to Torn. First, I think it's very natural for players to approach this game with financial laziness. What I mean by this is, based on my observation, some players are a little lazy when it comes to being smart with their money in game. So I would encourage you to approach spending money in Torn in the same manner you might in your personal life. Second, saving money or spending less money is the same as earning more. More specifically, if you're constantly spending money on items that you don't truly need, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to spend money on things like boosters that will ultimately help you to grow and develop in this game. The third concept is to buy items cheap and sell high. And this is something we're going to talk about later in the episode in greater detail. But there is basically unlimited potential to earn money in this game for someone who's willing to spend the time and effort in doing some basic things in Torn. The fourth principle is passive income. A disciplined player can have passive income, meaning money that comes from doing nothing, by smartly investing in things like the bank. To use one specific example, I'm making over $50 million every other week by having $2 billion invested in the bank. $50 million over 2 weeks' time is roughly $3.5 million in free daily income. This is generally enough to cover your daily Xanax use, your booster use, and your private island rental. The main point I'm trying to make here is, with more money, you're going to be more successful in the game because you'll have the money you need for things like boosters that will ultimately help you to grow and thrive in Torn. Although we briefly covered it before, it's worth mentioning here again that your choice of factions can greatly influence the amount of money you have in this game. To give some specific examples, some factions offer $1 mansion rentals to their membership. They may offer free boosters, free booze, and free Xanax, all which is going to save you money in terms of your day-to-day expenses. They may also loan you weapons and armor from their armory, ultimately saving you money on stuff you won't need to buy in-game. Factions also typically participate in rank wars, which allow them to earn prizes in-game, which they typically would share with their membership. This is also a consistent form of weekly or bi-weekly income for lots of players in Torn. Finally, faction perks such as Excursion can offer a player with additional travel capacity, which means more income from flying once you reach level 15. Once you reach level 15, your first priority is going to be to rent a private island with maximum happiness of 4225, including an airstrip, which is probably going to cost you about $5 million depending on the length of time that you rent the property. You're also going to need the large suitcase that I mentioned earlier, which is going to cost you about another $10 million. This means, for planning purposes, you're going to need to have roughly $15 to $20 million in hand when you reach level 15 so that you can quickly capitalize on the ability to fly and make the most money from them going forward. Although it might seem a little silly to do this for a game, having a simple budget showing your daily income and expenses can be extremely helpful for gauging how you're going to succeed in this game. I encourage you to spend a little bit of time developing a simple budget like this so you know where your money is going to come from and where it's going to be spent. The next thing I want to point out to new players is this down here called Recruit Citizen. In my experience, a lot of newer players in Torn have friends that they ultimately introduce to the game. If your friends use your referral code, Every time your friends achieve certain milestones in game, you will receive bonuses like these down here. The other thing I want to point out down here is the calendar. Torn has some special events in game which are particularly good for growing your wealth. Most notably the Christmas event in December, but there are other events that you will find here or may hear about from your faction mate. Although I'm not a fan of the casino, statistics show that spinning the Wheel of Lame, this one on the left, and the Wheel of Mediocrity, this one on the right, will pay out in the long run, meaning over the long run, you're likely to make some amount of money from these two wheels. This one in the center, however, is a loser in the long run. Outside of that, I'm not a fan of the casino. Everything else here in the casino is intended to take money out of the game, and I would encourage you to avoid the casino outside of some low dollar bets to achieve merits available through the game. Another opportunity to make money in game comes from crimes. And although these early crimes don't pay especially well, this is more of a long-term play, meaning as you develop through these crimes and get higher crime skill, you're ultimately working towards crimes which are going to help you make money on a consistent basis. I forgot to mention it before in the two previous videos, but Torn has a merit system, which is found by clicking right here. The single most important thing to invest your merit points in is education link right here, and we'll talk in greater detail later in another video about why that is the case. Once education is maxed out, you'll want to max out bank interest. Investing in the bank with maximum interest is far and away the most consistent and reliable way to make money in this game. Another important tool for making money and keeping your money safe is the stock market. To unlock the stock market, you're going to have to go here to the points building, and then you'll have to use 25 points here to unlock the stock ticker. This is roughly $1 to $2 million in Torn cash, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. So I encourage you to do this as quickly as possible. The Torn stock market isn't really quite like a real-world stock market. More specifically, people are not going to make significant money as a general rule by day trading. This is, however, a great way to hide your money, keep it safe from muggers, with little to no risk of losing money in the short term. There's also something called stock benefit blocks, which is a topic for another day, but just know this, that the stock market ultimately is a great way to get additional passive income in the long run. Although I mentioned it before, it's worth repeating here. Buying property in Torn is nothing like it is in the real world. Property purchases in Torn do not have the return on investment like you might see in real life. So you should always rent property until late in your life in Torn. Another thing worth looking into in the points building is the Bazaar. Unlocking the Bazaar costs 250 points, which might be more like $10 to $20 million in Torn cash, but this is an effective tool for selling items in game. I recognize that this is a big expense for a newer player in Torn, so in the short term, you may look to find a trader that you can trust to buy your items until you can afford to buy this Bazaar. When it comes to making money in Torn by trading, the principle is very simple. We want to buy items for cheap and sell them for additional money. One great example of this is the beer that we can buy here in Bits and Bobs for $10 a bottle. Looking here at the current prices in the item market, I can see that a bottle of beer is currently selling for about $573. This is an instant and immediate profit of about $560 per bottle. When it comes to items like this, I recommend you buy 100 items every day from the Torn shops and sell it because it's just easy money. At the point where you understand the value of things in game, you can quickly start to make lots and lots of money with consistent effort in game. I'm looking right now at the market for bottles of beer, and you can see here there's one here for sale for $570, but there's somebody here who's collecting lots and lots of beer and selling for $620. This suggests that this person is someone who's knowledgeable about the price of beer and can expect to get $620 per bottle, meaning if I can buy it for cheaper, I'm likely to be able to sell it for more than I paid. Although making $50 from buying a bottle of beer at $570 and selling it for $620 may not seem like a big deal, it's with repetition that you can ultimately make lots and lots of money with your time in game. One thing to be very careful of here is the item market fees, which amount to 5%. With this very specific example, if I intend to sell at $620, I should multiply this number here times 0.95 or 95% to determine that my buy price should be $589 or cheaper if I intend to make a profit. When it comes to trading, you'll often hear people using the term ghost trade. A ghost trade is a fake trade used to temporarily store money and keep it safe from muggers. Ghost trade should be done only with players that you know and trust, and this is a person I've randomly selected here in Torn for the purposes of making an example. Once I found the player who I know and trust to make a ghost trade with, I'm going to click this button right here. And then here in the description, I recommend you type ghost trade. This is your cue or signal to this other player that you don't want to trade an item, you're just trying to store money temporarily. Once you've done this, you're going to click initiate trade. At this point, you basically have created a little bank account where your money is safe from muggers for 6 hours. After 6 hours, this ghost trade is going to expire and any money here in the ghost trade is going to return back to your pocket. To add money here, all you do is click this little plus and then type in however much money you want to add, and you click change. And you can change this as many times as you like within the 6-hour time period. At the point where you want to return the money from here to your pocket, all you need to do is cancel the trade. As I mentioned before, having a trader in-game that you know and trust can be super, super helpful in-game. One place that you're likely to find such a person is in your faction. Just ask in your faction chat to see if you can find a trader you can trust. In addition to the fact that your money is safe from muggers in the bank, the stock market, and a ghost trade, your faction will typically allow you to deposit money into the faction vault. This is done here on the faction screen by clicking into the armory and making a deposit here. The game has a neat tool that keeps everybody's money separate. Just know this, only the leadership that has access to the vault is going to be able to return your money. So this is good for a longer term, but don't expect faction leadership to be giving you money every 30 minutes that you need it to buy the next thing. The money you're going to use for your daily expenses is best kept in a ghost trade or the stock market where you have full and complete access to the money. Now that you have an understanding of how basic finances work in Torn, I encourage you to spend some time studying the item market. Earlier in this video, beer was selling for $580, and you can see now there are 78 bottles available for $545. If you spend a little bit of time becoming an expert in a handful of items, you can quickly start to realize that there's an easy way to make consistent money from buying low and selling high. This is especially true if you have a trusted trader who has a guaranteed price that they're willing to pay for each and every item. I hope you found this video helpful. If you've discovered another trick for making money, don't hesitate to share it with us in the comments below. Thank you and have a great day.